All right, guys. Welcome to the Orbit AMA. We have Jamie here representing the team. Jamie, tell us about your project.
Hey, kiddies. Thank you very much for having us. I'm CMO of Orbit. We originally launched back in the 2nd of December. Quite a large fair launch. I would say probably it was certainly the biggest one of the month, but it was definitely one of the biggest of the year. So Orbit was actually founded off the back of our CEO Monk's previous success with a project called Baby Cake. A lot of you, particularly in the BSC, would have definitely heard of it because it was a very explosive meme coin that took from a 7K market cap to 112 million in days. So off the back of that success, Monk wanted to build something that was a lasting utility project within the space, not kind of just designed to, and then not have anything further come from it. So Orbit was born. As I mentioned, really crazy launch back in December. I think it generated millions of marketing money within the first 24.
Jamie, I'm sorry, buddy. It sounds like your mic is cutting off a little bit here. Is that just me, guys, or are you getting that too?
I think is that better now?
Let me see.
It was good, but I think it was Achilles that is not muted. That's why you were.
Oh, mine was the issue here. All right, let's see.
Yeah.
Let's see. All right, go ahead, buddy.
We good?
We will pretty quick. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. Generated millions in the marketing wallet within the first day, and then we had a very kind of madly exciting first month, where obviously, as you can appreciate, with 15,000 holders on the first day and everything that was kind of going on around the buzz around the project, it was a bit of a crazy month. I think we learned a lot from that particular time. There was definitely money that could have been spent in better ways, but I think when you generate such a lot for marketing, it kind of you run away with it a little bit. But then we went into kind of our period of development, which we built our 4 utilities that we have, which is Orbit Fund, Orbit Pad, Orbit Analytics, and Orbit Exchange. So to give you some more information as to what we do at Orbit and what those utilities are, we have Orbit Fund, which is a decentralized crypto trading platform. Essentially what that does and what that means is that anyone that's holding M31 has the ability to deposit currently, whilst we're on the BSC, BUSD into that Orbit fund, and then that will go into the back end, which is then traded by our experienced traders, who will then provide a return on investment of up to 7 to 10% a month, depending on what tier you're in. So we have 7 tiers here at Orbit, and that is entirely just dependent on the amount of Orbit tokens that you hold. Previously, we were called Andromeda or M31. The reason for that was actually a bot prevention method, because we had such an anticipated launch. We wanted to, as I say, have a slightly different token name, so it would kind of negate some of the snipers that were looking out for the Orbit contract. But now we're relaunching. We are going to stick very much on our brand with Orbit, and the token's also going to be called Orbit as well. With the Orbit fund, as I mentioned, there's 7 tiers, and the highest tier is 250,000 tokens. The lowest tier is 2,500, and then there's increments in between. So if you're investing into the Orbit fund, for example, if you're in the top tier, you have up to 10% ROI per month. Just to give like a little bit of an understanding as to what that would look like as an investor, because 10% when you're talking in the BSC, where people are looking for sort of like those 100 times gains in a week, may not sound the most appealing, but we always kind of encourage people to, yes, of course, get involved in these projects that maybe have the chance of mooning, but also really kind of hedge your risks when it comes to investments, and invest in something that's a little bit more safe and stable, and might not provide you with that opportunity to get rich in 5 days, but collectively over the time that you invest, you stand to make significant amounts of money. For example, if you were to put $10,000 into the Orbit fund, after the first year, you'd have over $30,000. After the second year, you have over $90,000, and by the time the third year comes around, you'd have $300,000 off of your initial $10,000 investment. So when you put it like that, it's a really it's a smart way of investing, alongside obviously your moonshots and everything as well. With the Orbit Fund, we also have a referral system. So very akin to a multi-level marketing strategy. I always say on these AMAs that I don't like using the word multi-level marketing because it's kind of been tarnished by Ponzi schemes. But essentially that's what it is. So everyone that you refer will receive, you will receive 0.75% of their ROI, not taken out of what they would earn, but on top of it. Everybody that you refer as referrals, you'll take 0.5% of all their ROI, and everyone that they refer, you receive 0.25%. That means that if you refer 10 people who refer 10 people who refer 10 people, you'll have over 1,000 people in your network that you're earning return on investment of every single month. It's very sustainable because the ROI that we advertise for the Orbit Fund, so the 7 to 10%, is very conservative in terms of what we actually get back from our investors, from our traders. And the reason for that being is because ultimately we want the Orbit Fund to become our main revenue stream in the long run. And it's really important because it provides us with the tools to become self-sufficient as an organization, not rely on the taxation system that we have, which is 10% in, 10% out. And so once that Orbit Fund is completely self-generating our revenue streams that we need to pay for development, marketing, salaries, etc., then we'll drop the taxes completely, and then that's when we'll look to list on the major exchanges. So that's the Orbit Fund in a nutshell. It's definitely our flagship and probably our most important utility in the sense of how we want to become self-sufficient going forward. Then we have Orbit Pad, and I don't like to dress this up too much because it is a launch pad. And it's not, there's only so many ways to skin a cat when it comes to a launch pad. Sorry if that expression doesn't make sense to people that aren't English isn't your first language, but there's only so many ways that you can operate as a launch pad. We will only ever launch projects that we genuinely believe have a potential to have a long-lasting impact in the space. We will never launch any meme coins. It's much more about quality over quantity with us. So if you see us launching a project, it's because it has real utility, and we believe it has a real chance at longevity and becoming something special in the future. So that's our launch pad. We do also assist with any kind of marketing if needed. We share connections, and we have no desire with the launchpad side of things to become the launchpad in the space. We're much more focused on collaborative efforts. We do believe as well that there's definitely benefits to have being in synergy with other launchpads, because it means that projects that launch with us and launch with other pads as well have the opportunity to have more eyes on them, more investors. So yeah, that's us as a launchpad. Currently, as I say, everything's on the BSC. The reason why we're relaunching in the first place is because we're going multi-chain. So we will be able to support Ethereum, Polygon, and Avalanche, which will mean that on launch day, you will be able to bridge over to the different chains. The community will basically be doing their own arbitrage, etc. Our third utility is Orbit Analytics. Now, Orbit Analytics is something that I'm really, really excited about. Orbit Analytics is a detailed on-chain data analytics tool, which is going to provide our investors with the tools to make smarter decisions on projects that they want to invest in. Now, this is something unlike the Launchpad where I said I don't think some things need to be overhyped and oversold. I think we need to be shouting from the rooftops about how great Orbit Analytics is, because not from a personal perspective, and maybe I'm a little biased because I work with the project, but personally, I think the analytics side of things is the best of its kind in the space. There are obviously other analytics platforms, but I'm talking from a user interface perspective and the level of data that you have available to you, and the ease of use and ease of being able to understand what that data means. It is by far the best in the space, in my opinion. So you'll be able to go onto the analytics platform. You'll be able to type in the project that you wanna check out, and it will give you like a ratio of like the type of holders that it has. So are they generally people that like to flip coins and get out, or are they people that tend to stick around for the longer term on projects? It will give you varying stages of all-time highs, when they were it will give you the top 15 wallet holders, what the most shared tokens between them are, so that if you're looking at a project that is doing particularly well and there's people that are big whales in there, you can also look at what their most common tokens are shared between the top 15 and that'll also give you an insight to be able to make a decision. Oh, sorry, Dumbledore, I think I'm echoing a little bit there. And that will be able to give you the chance for you to look into that and be like, oh, these coins must be worth looking at the very least. It will give you a variety of other data. There's honestly so much to be able to choose from, and whether you're a beginner looking at sort of like basic information as to how you make your decisions, or whether you are somebody that's a lot more has a lot more expertise in the space. There's kind of a bit of something for everybody, and you'll be able to look at varying degrees of data. And as I say, that's in order to make your investment decisions. And then finally, we have Orbit Exchange. And again, this isn't something that I want to dress up too much, because there are plenty of exchanges in the space. It's a front-end exchange which basically enables you to exchange your tokens. There's lots of them in the space. I would say the only thing that I really, really particularly love about ours, that there's a real distinction, is that our user interface is, again, I prefer it to anything else that I've seen, and it's also much easier to use. So yeah, that's the 4 utilities. Also, probably good to mention is that with the platform itself, we will be running ad revenues on ads on the thing, and we'll be doing a 50-50 revenue share with our investors as well. The other things that you want to probably look out for is that our actual launch day event in itself, we are doing something very different for the space, and something we're really, really excited about, which is we are sending a meteorological weather balloon up into space through orbit. Once it gets out of the Earth's atmosphere into space, the balloon will pop, and the second that balloon pop is when we're going to open for trading, which is really, really cool. And we've got, as I say, it's a full launch event, so it's going to be lasting about 2.5 hours. And it will be live streamed, so everybody can follow its journey on the way up. And obviously, loads of guests coming in. We'll be on there, hyping up the chat, getting excited for the launch on the day. And then as I say, it's the second that pops, we're open for trading, and everybody can go and buy and sell their tokens. And finally, obviously, there's plenty more to actually talk about, but in terms of like my spiel and not going on for ages and ages and ages without question, is we also have the Orbit Lamborghini that we're giving away to one of our investors. So we have got a matte black Lamborghini Gallardo LP550 that we have wrapped in black, that's got Orbit branding on it, and we're giving that away to one of our investors that doesn't sell any tokens. So if you've bought any time before, any time after the 1st of February and not sold, then you're automatically eligible to be put into the competition. And then once we're ready to draw that, we'll go through, make sure that everybody has the wallet randomizer brings up hasn't sold a single token, and as soon as we're ready, that Orbit Lamborghini will be going away, getting given away to one of our investors, and the CEO and I will make a little sort of documentary about the handover and delivering it to wherever they are in the world. So yeah, that's pretty much us in a nutshell. I know there's going to be plenty of questions and then things to sort of expand upon further, but I wanted to tell you everything that I could off the top of my head.
No, loved it. I do have a lot of questions. So, all right, first thing you mentioned, the other partner in this is Monk, correct?
That is correct, yep.
Gotcha. So what made you guys switch from the original M31 to now Orbit? What was the decision to decide we got to launch this in a different way?
So the reason for the relaunch?
Yes, correct. And Jamie, I'm having a little bit of audio trouble with you. I think it's just muffled. There we go. That's fine.
Cool. Let me just put that there. Is that better?
Perfect.
Excellent. Yeah, so the reason for the relaunch, the main reason for the relaunch is because we've decided to go multi-chain. So originally we launched on the BSC. It was always part of our roadmap to do an Ethereum bridge at some point. But when we're exploring the opportunities about bridging, so we're partnering with Everise in order to facilitate our multi-chain bridge. They told us about what platforms they could use, and we liked the idea of also using Polygon and Avalanche. So we decided to do that bridge from there. And yeah, so obviously to facilitate the updated contract and everything, we decided to relaunch. The other reason alongside that as well is to kind of recapture, to use it as an opportunity to capture new investors, new eyes on us, whilst they'll actually have access to go in and using the utilities immediately. So you'll be able to use the Orbit fund straight away. You'll be able to the day after we launch, there's going to be a project raising on our pad so that you'll be immediately able to go and access that. Whereas I think when we originally launched and the utilities were a mystery and everything, it's kind of like, oh yeah, you get excited. There's a token that's pumping, and then it's like, okay, well, where do we go from here? And then you go through that period of like developing your utilities, and then but unfortunately during that period of time, it's very difficult to maintain that kind of excitement and the hype around the launch. So yeah, it's kind of also another opportunity for us to be able to recapture that, have existing working utilities, and also have the new utilities that are going to be coming very, very imminently as well in the analytics and the exchange.
No, great. Yeah, I remember the first Orbit launch. I was there and I bought, and that was one of the more hyped experiences in BSC for sure.
It was crazy. It was actually the first project I ever invested in that wasn't like Bitcoin or Ethereum, etc.
Really? So how did you become a part of the team? How did you come onto it?
So I became, as I say, I started out as an investor. I became a member of the community, and then became a mod, and then just kind of worked my way up. I previously I'm a singer-songwriter, and so like kind of a wealth of different experience within my previous jobs and businesses that I've run that have kind of sort of led me into the position that I was in. So yeah, as I say, it's kind of one of those. It's a really crazy journey for me to be where I am. But yes, as I say, it's also pretty crazy that the first project I ever invested in the space was the one that I ended up working more than full time for.
Yeah, it's a crazy story. That's good. All right, let me jump to my questions. So, all right. So the return on the investment out of the Orbit fund,
Yep.
Is that being paid? So I have to own Orbit and I have to then stake the USD to get it, or I'm staking my Orbit?
No, so you're not staking your Orbit. It is purely your Orbit tokens are your golden key to be able to access the Orbit fund. So there will be token locks for using it, but you're not staked as such. You can unlock your tokens, but it will mean like forfeiting your ROI if you decide to do that with. So, but yeah, they're two separate things. So you've got the Orbit, your actual Orbit tokens, and then you've got your BUSD. Because we're now going multi-chain as well, you will also be able to use other stable coins that are attached to each chain that you want to use when the beta version of the utilities finished and we're in V1. But it is in two entirely separate things.
Okay. And when you say multi-chain, these are one-to-one chains, or you guys are doing three separate coins?
No, all one-to-one. So it's a bridge, not like a four launches, basically.
That's kind of cool. So you can get every investor from, you said Polygon, Avalanche, and BSC, correct?
And Ethereum.
And ETH. Great. This is definitely a project that ETH will like a decent amount. Okay. Tell me, so you're talking to probably the nerdiest channel on BSC.
No, we like nerdy channels. I think anything that provides a useful insight is definitely going to be a benefit. So yeah.
Dude, I use nerd as a compliment in that context. The question is, this weather balloon, what made you guys decide to do that?
Well, I think there's a few reasons. I mean, first of all, it's very on brand. We're called Orbit, so what better way to do a launch event than actually from space? So it was that. It was the idea of it being an actual event for the launch rather than just we're launching, come and join our TG sort of thing. So, the ability to be able to live stream something like that. And the other side of things, like when the idea sort of presented itself, I likened it to, I don't know if you've ever been on like on Facebook or something along those lines, when there's a live stream pops up and it's a guy with a watermelon and he's got loads of elastic bands and he just spends like 2 hours putting elastic band after elastic band around this watermelon until eventually it builds up so much pressure and it explodes. and there's literally just like tens, hundreds of thousands of views, like people sharing it left, right, and center, because the people, it's you, and I've done it personally as well. You don't know why you're so invested in this watermelon exploding, but you have to see it out. And it's kind of like that same sort of concept, is that we've got this weather balloon and we're not launching till the second that it pops. So yeah, it's basically just a kind of an extra market employer, a way of maybe getting people interested that aren't specifically interested in crypto on our event.
I think it's a really cool idea. All right, tell us about your actual launch. So you guys are doing a pre-sale, correct?
We are doing a pre-sale. So there is a right now, if you want to go and invest, there's a public sale with cookie sale that's open. We also have another couple of pads that one is announced. So Sphinx, we are jumping on there with their private sale shortly. So that I'll be on an AMA with them tonight. And then there's some more coming as well very, very shortly. And then, yeah, so we're just filling out those raises, and then once we're at that stage, once we're there, then it'll be basically launch time.
And when is the launch, and how much are you guys raising?
So the launch is on the that shouldn't have even been a thing that I thought about. The launch is on the 5th, so literally 2 days time, and we were initially raising 600k, but our raise with Unicrypt, we were told that they could comfortably raise 500k, and then we gave them 280 and they only raised 30. So that's kind of rejigging the process. So we'll probably will reduce our hard cap a little bit to maybe like 300, 400k. And as I say, we still got our own whitelist spots to give out. And as I say, other pre-sales, we've already sold out gem pads pre-sale as well. So it's just finishing off what we've got left to go.
Okay, so you have public pre-sales and whitelist pre-sales simultaneously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we got cookie sales one which ends in the next few hours, and then we've got Sphinx is going shortly after this, and then we've got another one that's going to be announced, which hasn't been announced yet. So just waiting for that to go ahead, and then we're ready and good to go.
Okay, that sounds good. All right, tell us about your tokenomics on launch, and are they variable? Are they fixed? What are the plans for that?
So they can be variable. Generally speaking, they're not going to be, because we've got kind of a way of working regardless of which way it's raised. But generally speaking, the pre-sale price is going to be 9 cents. The launch price is going to be 12 cents. As I mentioned before, it's a 10% buy-in and out tax. But we are doing a sliding scale tax for launch, and that's to protect new investors. It's to basically to protect what is a relatively volatile chart to start with, because of going multi-chain. It means that having to split liquidity up into 4 chains. So initially, it will be more volatile to start with. So we are having a 90% sell tax. You did hear that right, 90, but that's only for 10 minutes. And the only reason for it being that high is just to avoid the snipers and the bots that we had a huge problem with in our initial launch. And then once that 10 minutes are over, it's 50% for the first hour on a sliding scale tax down to 10%. Personally, I'm not really a fan of inflated taxes on launches at all. And if this was an initial launch, there's no way that I'd do it. I think personally, I'm much more of a fan of free trade. But because we also have the earlier holders that are in bigger profits than the pre-salers, we didn't want it to be a case of the pre-salers just get dumped on their head, or anybody that's buying into the charts get dumped on their head. So it becomes a little bit more of negating some of the sell pressure and keeping people sort of safe and protected, and then obviously putting our sort of marketing into place post launch, as well as obviously everything that's gone into it pre and on the day.
Okay, yeah, I was there for the first launch, and I've got to say I've never seen a coin go from 3 million to 50K, and then all the way back up again, over and over and over and over again. That was
it was
nuts.
insane. Yeah, honestly, as I say, it was my first launch, so you can imagine for me, I was like, is crypto always like this? And then obviously realized that I'd been in something very, very unique for the time that we were in, and the market conditions as well were horrendous back in December as well. So I'd have loved to have seen what we have done if we'd launched like in the summer of last year around the same sort of time, with the same sort of hype as after Baby Cake had happened. But yeah, madness
for sure. All right, what are the taxes on the coin?
So 10% buy, 10% sell. They only provide two things, which is LP and it's called marketing, but essentially that falls into everything that we need to sustain as a project. So that pays salaries, it pays development costs, it pays for everything that can be associated with the running of the project. As I mentioned previously, the taxes are something that we're looking to abolish completely within the next few months. The plan is to obviously build up that orbit fund to be completely as a self-regulating, self-sustained income stream, and as soon as we have that and it's providing what we need to get by on our monthly costs, then we can then drop the taxes, and then that's when we start to look at listing on some of the tier 1 exchanges. That
was going to be my next question. So I mean, I assume if you guys are raising that amount of money, your market cap is going to be somewhere around the range of about $1 million starting off?
No, our market cap will be significantly higher than that. I mean, we suspended trading at 6.8 million, something along those lines. So the market cap is likely to be around 12 million on launch. So people will be buying in. If you're on a pre-sale, you'll be buying in at about 9 million, and then the market cap will be about 12 million on launch.
Okay. All right. So, I mean, usually when I ask this question, we're talking about just getting enough buy pressure to 1 or 2x here, but like $12 million is a huge amount of volume that's required to keep that thing going. What are your launch marketing plans?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
The marketing plans on launch.
Yeah, so I mean, we've got a huge launch event that's going in that we're looking to funnel everybody that we can do into that, so it becomes an actual event rather than just we are launching. Then we have, as I say, it's going to be influencers, YouTubers. We have like a big sort of post-launch marketing strategy. I can't delve into too much what we've got planned, but we have I don't know how to say it without saying it, but we have other things that are coming out as well, that we've been looking into for a while. And as I say, the post-launch marketing strategy is definitely equally as important as everything that's going into it now. So if not more, because we do need to create and generate significant amounts of volume, and obviously particularly in the long term as well. If we're looking to list on some of those major exchanges, then we also need to keep that volume up long term. So it's very important.
Sounds good to me. All right, we're just about getting to the point where I'm going to let you guys ask some questions here. Before we do, what was my last one? So we don't know the time of launch yet on the 5th because we're waiting on the balloon, correct?
Yeah, exactly that. So we don't obviously know the time of launch ourselves. It's a case of we launch the balloon. It's going to be we'll obviously announce the actual the time that the space journey sets off, and then it's going to be roughly between sort of 2 to 3 hours from when that journey starts to when it pops and when we open trading.
Great. All right, guys. Let me I'll jump to the comments here and we'll take a look. Let's see. Mediocre, you got some great little comments here. All right. Good question. So this comes from Shimba. The analytics, will it be used for larger market coins, or can it also be used for BSC blockchain like meme coins and such?
Sorry, could you repeat that question? I was actually looking through some of your questions and how to smiling to myself. Sorry.
Oh, no worries. It's saying the analytics. What type of coins will the analytics be used for? Like if I launched a small project, is that on there? And guys, whoever's making that noise, you got to mute yourself. That's Moonlight. All right, Moonlight.
Yeah. So it'll be the analytics tool will be used for all types of coins. So it'll be used for small caps, it'll be used for the larger projects. It's there to basically provide you with as much information about as many projects as you do, so that you can go to it every time you want to invest in something and take a look at it in further detail. I think it's as I say, it's a really important tool because it gives you a wealth of access to things that you won't get from just by looking on the website or a Telegram group.
Okay. All right. Somebody has a second part of that question. Give me 1 second. So I feel like you talked pretty thoroughly about their anti-bot, and with the newer, higher starting market cap, it's going to be way more difficult to bot that. So Shimba, we're going to skip that one. Sabia, you can ask your question as soon as I'm done going through the text ones. We'll jump to the VC.
Hey, thank you, SUS. And
okay. Go ahead, buddy.
Thanks a lot for explaining the great things about the project, and I would love to ape in. But my question is this: you might have heard about the SWOT analysis, right? Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. SWOT analysis.
SWOT analysis. Gotcha. Yeah.
Yes. So could you please explain me before investing into your project, how you gonna explain about the on the matrices of SWOT?
I'm not sure I 100% understand the question.
What are the strengths of your project? What are the weaknesses? What are the ops?
So what do you believe the strengths, weaknesses of your project are? Let's just go with that.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So as I say, I believe that all four utilities really form, firstly, a really strong ecosystem around the project in itself. Anyway, I think they all really complement each other. As I say, whilst there are two of the utilities that I said that aren't necessarily our flagship, if you have a launchpad alongside a tool that the utility, the analytics platform that's enabling you to go in and delve in and research into that project, whilst it's when it's launched and everything, that then provides you with the ability to exchange your tokens also, and then also have access to a passive income source through the Orbit Fund. Now, the strengths of our project, as I mentioned previously, definitely surrounding the Orbit Fund and the Orbit Analytics. The Orbit Fund is, first and foremost, is what's going to be able to create significant passive income for our holders, both either through directly inputting into the Orbit Fund or being someone who refers a lot of people. There is a significant amount of money that can be made through your investments. And the Orbit Analytics tool in itself, as I said at the start, is something I'm so passionate about because it provides such a level of detail that you can't really get anywhere else in such an easy to read format with a brilliant user interface. And I think it's really, really important. We're really here to kind of like try and educate people into making smarter investment choices, which is exactly the same reason why we talk about the Orbit Fund, is not to detract people from investing into projects where they have the potential to kind of do 10, 100,000 X's or whatever, but just being smart and having investments alongside those types of investments that are going to create you more safe, stable income. So I think that's definitely our project's strengths. In terms of weaknesses, I think just currently we need to, I think, but basically put it into more people's eye lines, which is what we're trying to do with the launch, and really get that kind of mass user adoption. So really market the hell out of everything. I think that's probably where we need to get better. And we're hoping from both the referral system on the fund and everything that was going into the launch that we should be able to achieve that.
Can I go?
What's your question, brother?
Yes. Thank you very much. Thanks.
You're welcome. No worries.
Can I go?
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Hi. So I have a question regarding your project. I'd like to know, I see that there are a lot of functions that have been offered, and I would like to know what would you say is your selling point when it comes to your project? Because a lot of projects are offering a lot of functions right now, whether it's trading or with all the trading and the stacking. But so I wanted to know what is your exact selling point and why would people leave those other projects to come to yours?
Sure. I mean, first of all, we're not here to say like ditch your other projects and come and invest in us anyway. I don't think. I think there's room for, and we always, again, for like full transparency, all of us will always say to you, never go all in on one project anyway. We don't believe that's a smart way of investing, and I think it's important to spread your investments and invest wisely. I mean, I feel like big part of the answer to that question I've sort of answered just a moment ago, but as I say, I believe fundamentally our analytics platform is heads and shoulders above anything else that's in the space, and I'm really looking forward to having that release within the next month or so. The Orbit Fund, as I say, yes, that there's definitely different places that you can go to have varying levels of return on investment. Ours is a very easy to use. Your Orbit tokens and the tier system that you're in will act as a golden key to be able to access all levels of our utility. So if you're the higher amount of tokens you are, the better allocations you'll get for each project that we launch. And as I mentioned at the start of the AMA with the Launchpad, we're only going to be launching projects that we truly believe have the chance of having a long-lasting impact in the space. So we're never just going to launch a project just for the sake of it to try and get like a few % fees for the raise. It'll only be something that has utility and something that we truly believe in. With regards to the fund, again, it's something that we're able to offer steady, safe, secure income that over the course of a year you can do over a 3x. Over the course of the 2 years, you'll be doing sort of close to 10x, and over the course of 3 years, you'll be doing 30x your money. And it's I think it's a nice thing to be able to offer those kind of levels of return.
That was a great answer, Ed. Thank you, Sam. All right, who else has a question in the VC? Mr. C, of course. Brian, go ahead.
Yeah. So I've been hearing about this project, and
Hey, what's up, Dom?
Sorry, guys. Can we just keep one at a time? So, Mr. C,
yeah,
we go with you first, and then we'll have Brian.
Okay. I also wanted to know, is there a partnership on this program, or are there influencers on this?
Yes, so we've collaborated with many influencers that are working with us, YouTubers. We're literally, I think, going out right at this point. We've probably got about 5 or 6 that are literally just about to post about us now. We're partnered with Evereyes. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them, but if you're not, I'd suggest going and take a look at it. Not financial advice, of course, but I think they are tremendously well-run project, and their utilities are fantastic, and I think they're going to have real success long-term in the space. So we're delighted to have a partnership with them. We've got KYC partnership providers that so that we make sure that every project that we launch is vetted, and that we're providing safety for those pad projects. So yeah, various partnerships and more that will be announced as time goes on.
Awesome. I hope that answers the question. All right, Wyatt, that's you, buddy.
Oh,
Mr. James,
hey guys, thanks for having me here. I might be launching a project soon, and so let's pretend that there's a couple other people here like me that might want to launch a project that don't know anything about how launch pads work. Would you be able to kind of give us a little detail how your Launchpad will work specifically?
Yeah, absolutely, of course. So if you guys aren't familiar with a Launchpad, that's a very fair question. So basically how a Launchpad, and obviously I know your question was specific to how ours will work, so I will explain that. But essentially, for those of you that don't know, a Launchpad is somebody that takes that helps a project to launch by raising revenue streams for them prior to the start of their project, in order to get people invested into the pre-sales. So a project can know ahead of time roughly how much money before the project's actually launched that they're going to have to work with from a marketing perspective, from a development perspective, or for whatever else that they're needing to use the funds. Now, from our side of things, our Launchpad works. So we will either get somebody come in touch with myself that's they've got a project that they're wanting to launch with us, and I generally start off with a Zoom call, because I think you can get a real understanding from somebody about it rather than just look at. I mean, obviously, I like to see pitch decks and everything to make sure that it's a professional looking project, but I think actually delving into how they want to proceed, what their goals are for the future, what their own motivations behind it are. And as I say, like their plans for marketing and all of the strategies that they have in place. If that's something that we like the look of, and there's been a lot that I've spoken to that kind of that haven't fit the criteria, but it's just I don't believe that they have enough to sort of propel them. But when they do, we will then make sure that they're happy to KYC, happy to have the contract had a look at. Generally speaking, we suggest for people to go and get that audited through, because we don't want to be putting any projects in our investors' islands that are going to rug or honeypot or be scammed in any way. And we, as I say, we want to make sure that we have something that runs. So then what happens is that we will host an AMA with them, much like we're doing now, once we've agreed to have them on the pad, and they will we will raise whatever amount of money that we've sort of agreed upon, so that all of our investors can take a look at it, go and invest, and then once that's closed down, then we'll send them over the money that's raised. They'll send the tokens, or whichever way we do it, whether they do it through our pad or through theirs. And then on just before launch or on launch, people will be able to click a button, go claim their tokens, and then they can sort of trade freely depending on whether they're vested or how that will work long term.
You mentioned having partnerships with other launch pads. So will you guys work with other launch pads with the same thing to get them, get more extra funds for marketing, stuff like that?
Sorry, buddy, my phone just started ringing when you asked the first half of that question. Could you repeat it?
You mentioned something about working with other launch pads.
Yep.
You're going to be partnering with other ones doing pretty much the same thing to get more funds raised in the beginning, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
awesome. You guys, I mean, I'll definitely hit you up later on down the line when I get everything ready.
Yeah, I mean, by all means, please do. Yeah, I think it's as I mentioned, it's important to not look at yourselves as like trying to become the only launch pad in the space, and look at it from a perspective of how can we help other projects. Because by raising on multiple launch pads, not only do you benefit from possibly being able to raise more funds than you would on one, you also benefit from having extra community members on that are likely to see your project and come and get involved in your community. So it helps the project to grow that way. So we believe in synergy and collaboration rather than trying to dominate the space in that regards.
And then last thing, do you guys have any type of plans to have some program to help people who they have a great idea, they're working on a project, and they just don't have the help that they need to go further? But if you guys see it as a good project, you have a program to help them.
So kind of like almost like an incubator sort of thing, where you can sort of like provide either with like development tools or something along those lines. I mean, directly we don't, but also one of the projects that we partner with do have that type of program. So again, it's a case of we will help out projects in whether it's us that are doing it directly, or being able to put them in touch with people that can.
Cool. I'm definitely going to DM you at some point, probably in the next couple of days.
Nice one, Brian. Cool.
Hey, Jeremy.
Thanks, man.
Hey, CJ.
Hey.
The question?
Mediocre? Guys, we're going to go in order today, everyone. Suke, go ahead. Suke, sorry.
Thank you. Hi, Jamie. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing good, thank you. I had a question on your Orbit exchange. Now I see it says coming soon, so I'm thinking it's a little further down in the roadmap.
Yep.
And it says you're going to list top ranking tokens based on organic data. So I wanted to know how many tokens. Is it going to be like top 50, top 100? And also, more importantly, what I wanted to know is it going to be just a swap or something more than that, like a proper exchange? And if it's going to be a proper exchange, then do you plan to have like liquidity partners? I know some new exchanges are doing that with Binance, where Binance provides liquidity guarantee so users can get similar prices on their new exchanges. Is that
Yeah.
the direction you're taking?
So currently, the exchange as it is just a front end exchange. So in currently speaking, it's not going to be like the type of exchange you mentioned, like you like a full fledged one. We have discussed making one at some point, but we've been heavily in development of all the other utilities, so it'll be probably quite some way off before we actually delve into something like that. Regards to your first question, I'm actually not sure of the answer to that in terms of how many top tokens that it'll be, but I would imagine. In fact, I wouldn't even want to say I'd imagine, because I could be way off the mark. My COO, who's actually on a flight right now, would probably be the best person to ask that question. So, I mean, feel free to obviously join our TG, and if you want, as I say, someone will definitely be able to answer that. But I don't really want to give out information that I'm not 100% certain of.
Okay. Do you have like rough timelines of when the Orbit exchange is planned?
Yeah, so that should be literally within the next month or so now for the beta version. So we've got the Orbit Fund and the Pad are both in their beta versions at the moment. The Orbit Analytics and Exchange, both are done from a front end perspective. I think the analytics is pretty near enough ready completion anyway. So that'll be, I'd imagine that'll be launched probably within the next month, and the Exchange will be not too far off of that either. So yeah, it's not far off. As I say, we've got the front end completely there. I've seen it. It looks fantastic. It's brilliant how cohesive it is. It's just a case of getting the final touches done and then rolling it out.
Fair enough. All the best. Thank you so much for answering my questions.
Of course. Thanks very much for asking.
DJ.
Can I
All right.
Achilles?
We got a few people going at one time. I believe Dominion James was before you, Mental Dre. But Dominion James, go ahead.
All right. Okay, thank you, Achilles. My question is from the Orbit Pod. It says that holders of M31 have access to whitelist of other projects. So these other projects, are they in partnership with Hobbit? And I would like to know more about the Minimax game theory. Thank you.
Okay, so the Orbit Pad, you will have access to other whitelists, and they will basically be projects that we are helping to launch. So much like we are using other pads right now in order to help facilitate pre-sales, we take projects in, we will help them to raise by offering out our whitelist spots to people that are holders, and the amount of allocation that you'll get will depend on what tier you're in, because we have 7 tiers, and then. So once we're there, it's a case of if you're holding, you'll be able to go and get your allocation, so it's not just like generally speaking, it will be projects that we're specifically launching that you'll have access to on the pad.
Okay, and the Minimax game theory.
Pardon?
Minimax game theory. On the white paper, the Minimax game theory. On the decision analysis.
Game theory, yeah. So I'm not too I'm actually not the best person to speak to with game theory. It's the white paper. So again, that's probably most of the time on these AMAs, I kind of handle the way that the project's running, etc. And my COO or CEO will be able to answer sort of the gaps of my knowledge. So I don't understand enough about the way that works to be able to give you a definitive answer. But please do come into our Telegram and ask that as a question anytime. We also have 24/7 mods that are there as well, but our COO will be more available, and our CEO. Both of them are on a flight right now, actually, so they'll be back in sort of later tonight, and they'll be more than happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Jimmy.
You're welcome.
Hope that answered it. All right, next up we have Mr. David.
All right, thank you, sir. I'm very grateful. Sir, how are you doing, Jane?
Hey.
All right, good. Absolutely, your first project was your V1 was absolutely superb. Looking at the moonshot, it was absolutely superb. I can commend it. That project made many people and also wrecked many people. And absolutely, if there is no problem with the first launch, there won't be a need for launch. So I'd like to ask, what exactly went wrong with the first launch? And now that you're doing a relaunch, how do you intend to solve that problem? How sure are we that what went wrong with the first launch is not going to repeat itself as history? And then peradventure, because the next relaunch is going to take place in next 2 hours thereabout. Now, what do you peradventure you have an opportunity to change something, just one thing in this space before the next relaunch? What would that one thing be? Can you tell us as potential investors?
Thank you very much for the question. So, firstly, in terms of what went wrong, I mean, the reason why we're relaunching in the first place is because we needed to, in terms of being able to facilitate the contract changes that enable us to have our multi-chain bridge to Ethereum, Polygon, and AVAX. But also, it'd be very wrong or arrogant of me and to say that we did everything perfectly first time around, because there's definitely things that we could have handled better. That involves not overspending marketing money on things that are a bit gimmicky and that don't necessarily provide the right returns on investment. So being a lot more smarter with the budgets. And making it much more about the project and the utility rather than just trying to get the moonshot. Obviously, the ultimate goal is to raise our market cap significantly, and the goal is to become sort of like a 9-figure market cap token in the future. So we definitely want to get this into the billions. So although I know we're launching at a relatively high market cap, that's kind of not where we want that to be going long term. So yeah, so that's the answer to that. And the last part of your question was, what would I change in the space? I would change a lot about the BSC, if I'm honest. I think it's become a little bit of a graveyard, and I think people, like, obviously we're all in this to make money, but I think just trying to get in just to flip for like a tiny bit of project and leaving lasting impacts on a chart just to bleed it dry, I think, and on the flip side of that, I'd change how many developers there are out there that are just launching projects just to scam people or rug it or honeypot it. And it's one of those things where the beauty of crypto is all of this decentralization and the fact that there aren't regulations, that the governments can get their hands on your money. But at the same point, it's kind of like you want the best of both worlds. You want regulation from a perspective that nobody can do these kind of things with projects, but then you don't want it to be regulated so that you can you have control over what you do with your money, etc. So they're probably the main changes that I would change to the space from a personal perspective.
Awesome, that's actually awesome. But you know, I realize also that your ad cap is 170 thereabout, and you have the maximum buy of 4 BNB. Now, this definitely many people are not going to be able to get into the public per se. So, do you have any dump system in place? Because this project is going to moonshot shortly. So, how do you intend to sabotage the losses that might come upon those who will eventually buy into the system after launch?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we have a sliding scale tax system on launch to negate some of the sell pressure, because people, generally speaking, who get into pre-sales are there to make a little bit of profit and get out, and some people are there for the longevity of the project and to be able to use the utilities. So we have in place, we have the sliding scale sell taxes, and we also have the token locks on using for the utilities, such as like the Launchpad, where we'll be doing our first raise the day after we launch, and the Orbit Fund as well, which generally stokes up a significant amount of interest because people are interested in putting their money into something that they can sort of let sleep and work for them. So that's it generally, and then it's just a case of keeping a really sort of like heavy market strategy going when it's all done.
Awesome, absolutely awesome. Thank you so much, Sakis, and I wish you the very best in your project. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks very much for the questions.
Thank you, Minstrel David. All right, we have time for just about one more. Who wants to take that?
Actually, I have a question. Can I ask a question?
Okay, we're gonna go Hendoko because that's the first one that turned green on my screen. Hendoko, go ahead, buddy.
All right. I want to ask about the traffic on the website. Your team put every utility like a fund, Launchpad, exchange, and analytics in one domain. So how are you going to handle the traffic? Because I think you provide very big utilities, if might I say.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably definitely a better question for the developers. But I believe that from a server perspective, we've got more than enough to be able to handle the traffic that we'll have used. So I don't think that's ever going to be a problem for us.
All right, thank you.
Sorry, I can't give you a bit more of in-depth answer. I'm in no way a tech head. So, but I know from the developers that we have that every avenue will be sort of explored as an opportunity there, and I can't see that ever being an issue. And if that was an issue, then it would get upgraded and fixed pretty quickly. So. Guys, I know we've come to the end of the AMA from the time slot perspective. So what I just want to say is that please go and join the Orbit Telegram. What I'm going to do is I'm going to head straight back over there afterwards and jump into a voice chat, so that if anybody that didn't get the opportunity to ask a question wants to, they can do. Just a reminder that there's a public pre-sale open for the next couple of hours with Cookie Sale. I don't know if Achilles, I don't know if you've posted that link at all. If you wouldn't mind doing that for the guys, that would be really, really handy. But other than that, as I say, please come and join us in the community. Did you want to wrap this up, Achilles? So I'm probably stealing your thunder a little bit there.
No, buddy, you're good. You're good. Yeah, do me a favor and shoot me the Cookie Cell link.
Yeah,
that
will do that right now.
Anything, I'll make sure that goes on the wrap up. And just thank you for being here. We're excited for the launch.
Thank you so much for having us. Yeah, really, really excited. And yeah, we'll I'm sure we'll speak to you very, very soon. And please do come and join us for our launch event. It's going to be very exciting.
Yeah, I want to see that balloon. I'll be there. Thanks, man. I'll end the recording right now. Have a great one, man.
Take